So can we move now from that to this? That's what would help us grow. And one thing that we will accept is internet has helped us close on that gap completely. Because other social tools that could have helped us grow, churches and football and all that, they still remained multi-ethical in one or another. Like you go to Western and you find there, you know, if you go to Central, it's more so Catholic, PCA, Anglican. Now you go to Western, you know, the Aquinos and the rest. So, but now the internet, I'm able to communicate with someone who's in Kericho, who I've never met. So it has really helped us close on that gap.
All right. I don't know whether we have really made these strides that Goko speak of, but as Mheshimiwa, one, looking at what happened in Kisii and what it is that Goko brings on board in terms of the fact that the common Mwananchi is now getting to that point where, you know what, they leave it for you to fight for yourself. What does it make you feel as a politician? Because in most cases, even with devolution, we've said we have created demigods, we've created militias with the governors, and, you know, you have seen it before. We started by saying that, you know, it was a surprise that upon that impeachment declaration, you could not see Nairobians in the streets. I mean, have we matured to that level, and does it make you feel bad as politicians?
Linda, the biggest player to Kenyans is one. Our leaders must cease completely from trying to keep bringing up issues to do with tribalism. Tribalizing the country every other day is a big insult to the nation. The nation is supposed to be every other day coming out of those tribalisms and uniting as a nation, forging together as a nation. But when our daily talk is how do we bring a grand decoration of certain number of tribes together so that we garner the leadership of the country, I hope that is not the direction to go. It is good that actually it is not criminal when you bring a variation of number of grand coalition of tribes together and make a win. That's okay because democratically it has no query in our constitution. But our tongues as politicians matters a lot because we are the one who incites the public to the elections of taking nasty things. And let me tell you, Kenyans are one, and they are only divided by politicians. Just watch, after election, and when the nation comes down, nobody cares to take his vehicle to a rural mechanic. Nobody, Akiku does not care to take, because in this alliance, there are those people who are expert on their line. And maybe in one example, I am a transporter. And let me tell you, if there are people who are capable in doing what we call a welding job and what we call mechanic jobs, you can get this from rural fellows. Then you must look for them because they are the people who can fix you. Then tells you, once we forget, we come out of elections, we forget everything and we join hands together to build the nation without caring those tribal lines. How do we kill these elements during our politics, our trials of what we call electioneering? Because that's where we go wrong.
We have been alive to witness the intolerance, that is, of course, in 2007 and 2017. And I said I have a lot of, historic moments where such, occurrences played out. But we go ahead and justify this and say, you know what, this happened in the world's biggest democracy in America just the other day. We go ahead to just proceed and, listen to these leaders at a time when we've been cautioned on COVID-19. And we do not just listen to them, we proceed to cause chaos for that matter. When you look at such occurrences and also as you get to react to what it is that played out in Kisii, does it then show all signs of a nation that is spiraling towards violence?
I hope not. I want to be very optimistic that every time Kenyans learn. And I'm glad that in Kisii it was my two brothers, my very good friend Osoro and Simbarati, who took it upon themselves. And the reason why I'm saying I'm glad is that at least it was not the ordinary Mwananchi who were fighting. And I'm hoping that next time we can see even two governors trying to square it out so that then at the end of the day, we remove this culture of people fighting at the bottom so that at the top also they can be able to fight. Just before I get it, there's something very crucial that Mheshimiwa said. That when you go to the shop, Linda, to buy milk,
Yes.
you don't question the tribe of the person selling you the milk. When you probably go into a market, you want to buy fresh produce, you don't tell that person, hey, are you a Luya? No, I'm not a Luya, then I'm not buying from you. We don't have those, I mean, you don't even care who your next door neighbor is, as long as you guys are living harmoniously and peacefully. Now, where the problem comes, the problem is we seated on this table, including you.
Right.
That is when we start now saying, oh, the Mulebe cautiousness, I don't know, the Gusi unity, oh, the Kikuyu Sagana 1, 2, 3, 4, and all that.
But just how can we speak about that? Because we pride in our tribes. It's
of course, we pride in our tribe.
Yes.
And the tribe is supposed to be, I mean, it's a source of identity. And being a source of identity, we are supposed to be proud of it rather than using it as a separation mechanism. So that then you don't start saying that, hey, Kikuyus love this and this, Kisis love this and this, and use it as a separation. Look, when you take your kid to school, you don't care that the teacher is from which tribe. You just take them there. But when we sit on this particular tribe, that is when we start now fueling some kind of lack of cohesion and saying, hey, you know, Kikuyus did this and this, Luyas did this and this. So the people actually are the people in the controlling class. Let's say the politics and the media and all that. We are the people who bring these divisions to the people. And I hope that if you listen to the Deputy President very well and the President very well, there is a keen interest in nobody should use our youth. The same youth who the President said do not wheelbarrows, and I agree.
Right.
We need jobs. But then the President appears like he has just come from somewhere else. He doesn't know what is going in the country.
Okay.
Yeah, so my point is that the biggest problem we have is the youth bulge. The people who are shouting in Kisii were not my father, my mother, my grandmother, but they were my brothers and my cousins who don't have jobs. Linda, your cameraman person here, will not leave the studio and go to BAMBA or go to Githurai to shout. It's only a person who is jobless, who needs some 500 shillings to eat at the end of the day, who will go out and keep on shouting. So there is a very interesting thing that the two of them said, the youth issue. But what has the president or the presidency done to ensure that the youth issue is dealt with?
And now the
same government
yes.
that gave Mudi Awori a job, the same government that gave Masden Badoka, the same government that gave Mary Wambui and the likes. Not that they are not qualified. But
and remember what
the same government
during the appointment of Mundi Awori, President went to the record and said, "Jews are there, but you can't trust them."
Right.
I mean, sure, is he saying that he doesn't trust his own children? The Governor Nyamira right now said a couple of weeks ago when he was appointing his cabinet that you see young people, you don't have enough brains. You just wait. I'll give you some small.
But is it
jobs.
Not true?
Linda, did you go to school?
Or I did.
And I know you can even
I can handle that. Yes.
Why will you get your grandmother to do a job that you did? Why did you go to school?
I would add to what Wakili is saying, and I'll add that the same president who gave Mudi Awori, the same president who gave Zach, the same president who gave Anne, the same president who appointed Wambui Nyoto as a commissioner, the same president who appointed Dan Mwangi, my friend, as the CEO BBI steering committee, and among many others. The same president who supported Koril for MP Rangata, same president who nominated Mwaura. So let's look at the ratio, because what we should own up is, if we move that way, what we should own up is, behind the scene, there's a seasoned producer or technician who is helping you and the others to learn the trick on the game. I've been a serious youth advocate since I joined being a youth, from the local village where the CDF of those days would appoint a 70-year-old man as a youth rep because there was no law protecting them. They just needed someone to say, I'm here to represent the interest of the youth. To today, whereby the Sagana meeting on Sunday, I was involved. Strictly was 35 and below. No matter how good you are, it was 35 and below. So, I saw the same happen in Mombasa. The youth, the president met youth 100%. If we say unemployment is what is causing the political intolerance, Mheshimiwa here will agree with me. I vied. Mheshimiwa is in National Assembly today. The most handout seekers today are the employed.
Oh, yeah?
I would go to the village, meet jobless youth, and we would reason together with them.
Okay,
but the moment I
few
get
who
to Nairobi, and you sit with your colleagues and friends who are driving,
They're thinking of
they
how they're
expect you
going
to
to
pay
make
their
more money.
beer. They expect you to pay their bills.
Well, that's an interesting one. That is an interesting one.
And
I'm
it
going
was
to come
so
into you
funny
as you
to
get to,
respond.
as
It
you
was
get
so
yes.
funny. It was so funny. So as we move the youth agenda, I want as many youths as possible in job because you know everybody wants to start earning. I also want a better job. I want a good job. But if we do not look at the progress, if we do not look at how far we have come from to where we are, then we cannot get a solution to where we want to go.
And speaking of which, well, these few appointments that we speak of that have been taken by the oldies yet are supposed to genuinely be for the youths are probably not so much that would come in handy to address the question of unemployment that we witness today. And so when we speak of youths being vulnerable to these politicians, to these handouts and so to speak, does it then mean that we are fighting a losing battle when we speak of shunning intolerance?
I'm glad that my brother here, of course, seems like he has the ears in the big offices.
Okay.
And I would like to send you with this message that if indeed we want to have the youth problem solved, number one, there has been an accusation that youth do not have experience, do not have what? And you can only get experience if you're introduced into that kind of spectrum. Today, if Zach Kinuthia and Ann Nyaga were to be given cabinet positions, you will agree with me that they now have information or rather knowledge on how a government works.
Yeah.
But why don't we do more of that? In a country where 70% or so are young people, why then do we have the people who are more getting employed being old people? For me, I have that problem. I agree that today if you pick me and make me the CS Treasury, I'll not be able to perform. If today you pick me and take me as the PS Transport, I'll not be able to perform. We don't have a mechanism of ensuring that these young people get introduced into even those boards so that then at the end of the day, they're able to mentor their others. I mean, what we do is, like right now, you have a board where you have only oldies, and when we say, hey, introduce the young people, you'll be like, no, they'll not be able to perform. Why didn't you introduce them from the word go?
Yeah.
Today, Linda, if you want somebody to take over from you, then you have to mentor. One of the worst performing people in mentorship are the senior government officials. They don't want to hear anything to do with young people. So
But
we
you've
have a
seen
problem.
you are getting surprised when the young man tells him that he's going to succeed him. And instead of saying, yeah, come, let me mentor.
The president, just a minute.
Yes.
What
Please
my
tell the
friend-
president we have
Yes,
young people
yes.
who are qualified and who can do
The
those
problem
jobs.
is, okay, let me say, what Wakili is saying is that, which have been there, we are looking at 18 cabinet secretaries.
How many young people?
Vis-a-vis 18,000 teachers. So the population among the youth who are getting employed in government is in the ratio of 1 to 10, 9 are youths. When you look at nurses being hired, we can look at the data, from the NMS alone. They had 600 nurses. I would love to know how many were above 40 years. They hired drivers, they had technicians. Right now on this newspaper, they have advertised for 4,000 police. None is above 26 years. But just because I, Rongo, and you, my friend Wakili, we are overqualified for these jobs, so we do not lobby for them.
Yeah.
Neither do we appreciate them. So I want to go, personally, I want to go up, PS, CS, directors and all that. So I will lobby for that, and I'll use that as an excuse. Then I will use the youth unemployment as an excuse for me to lobby for that job.
Okay.
But if you look at it systematically, if you look at this newspaper, the number of jobs that have been advertised, 90% of them goes to youth. So when we go up, and the mentorship start from somewhere, like you have agreed, you are not yet ripe for a CS. I believe I am.
Then why don't you get the job?
Because
And yet you were in Sagana. Please get the job. I'll be happy.
because it is a process. It is a process.
Okay.
It's a process to get there. And we as young people, we must admit it's a process. When the president
and this process
made the appointment
in nurturing the youth for that, because, well,
when
that
the president made the appointment of the
concern.
CAS, he said, nimewapatia kazi, musome kazi, ndio next time mchukue hizo makazi.
I think Mheshimiwa did
okay, Mheshimiwa, as you come in, I mean, we're talking solutions right now because we're almost winding up, and I think it is necessary that we have some of these solutions so that when we talk of a scenario where we're going to root out intolerance in totality, then at least we have bases that would complement and support that.
Linda, a good government is a government that takes care of motivating and empowering.
Has this government done that?
Here, what we are lacking, and the reason why we have a gap between the levels of those who have and have not, is because surely there is a lot of resources that are not harnessed, that actually, or opportunities that are not harnessed. Our youth, surely, we need to consider that actually every year we have a candidate that leaves from university, colleges, getting to what we call the market, the national market. These people, there is no any preparation anywhere. The government doing very little in terms of creating rooms to adopt those people coming out of those.
Wait a minute.
So
just what is our education doing? Because that is also one thing that we need to discuss. When we speak of preparation, is this not something that should be done at the level of the education process, or this is something that should be done after education?
Later,
Just what happens? Is it because?
Can I tell you something?
We have not.
Where we are losing is that this country, we have it's a country with a lot of skills and the best skills, and I can tell you, our people migrate from here to go and actualize their skills elsewhere, because here the skills are of no use. I don't think that at this age, why do we import smartphones from outside the country? Why do we keep on importing TVs from outside the country? Why do you, where we have people here with skills, and there's one area of manufacturer where we have what we call motor vehicle manufacturer at Thika. That particular assembly is a clear indication that we can do more. Why can't we do this partnership with those mega manufacturers outside, instead of every day walking out there, getting what we call electronic from outside and everything else there? Bring these people there, give them conducive environment, let them have their industries here. Bring them here, we will just create what we call environment for new jobs. But when we always keep on moving out, importing these things that are out there, and we are not turning this country to what we call domestic kind of a product. We compare now, there is Juakari. Our Juakari is like forgotten. We are not really marketing Juakari things in our local industry, in our local consumption. Then we feel, who will do this if we are not doing that? Well, and let me tell you, our product is like, we have made Kenyans to believe that our local products are not genuine. And they have to depend with anything that which is made in India, either made in England, made in America, or elsewhere. Where at what point shall we agree to adopt our local product? I
don't know whether I would be justified or anybody would be justified to counter what it is that Mheshimiwa speaks of, Areba. I mean, we probably have had a chance to go out, and we've had friends who have probably gone to settle abroad. And in most cases, while their skills are tapped into, they would go there, but they have to go through, a learning process again, say for a year or two, to just add flesh to what it is that they have. Do you suppose then we should have an approach where we start from the level of education? Is the incorporation of the competence-based curricula something that we look at as positive, because it's supposed to enhance the skills of the students? And, we probably look at a future that is going to be different and will make use of the talent that we have on board, of the creativity that we have on board, and technically what it is that we have as a people.
I think first of all we need to change our attitudes.
Okay.
If today your daughter comes home and tells you she wants to be a singer, okay, probably you might agree because you have been exposed. But if the years when I was going to high school, I would come back and say I want to be a footballer, that is the day I'll be beaten.
Yes.
We still have parents there who you say I'm a comedian, they're like, si utafute tu kazi mtoto wangu, mbona unasumbua sumbua? And even you yourself,
yes,
you have relatives who are asking you, why don't you have a job? Right. Your work is just talking. They don't know that this is a job. So we need to start changing that attitude first of all, that even in terms of skills, in terms of talent, there are people who earn more. They whatever we earn in a month, they will earn it in a night through their skills and through their talent. We need first of all to change that attitude. Then number two, we need to revolutionize our education system. You can see what has been going in the education sector, so some kind of drama and videos, because we try to implement something that we have not really thought through it. I fully support the competency-based curriculum. But then what happened with ensuring that the trainers themselves have the necessary skills and capacity to take learners through that? What about the infrastructure? We see every day that the infrastructure in schools is in a very sorry state. So unless we are able to settle those teething issues of infrastructure, skills, in the people who are supposed to impart skills and knowledge to the young ones, then we might not be able to really to go far. And that is why if you look at some of these private schools, they charge an arm and a leg, because you realize that children are exposed to issues of skills. Some play golf, some, I don't know, they do horse riding. Some they do some things. If you tell my grandfather, he will be like, "Is that what you do in school? You don't go to learn. You are just joking." But it's something that is meant to open up the learners to other alternative means of getting jobs and be able to earning a living. So we need to revolutionize our education system because we don't have enough yet in terms of skills and in terms of infrastructure to be able to support all that. How do you tell a student in my linear primary school to train to be a swimmer when all they know is River Isihu?
All right. Well, that's an interesting one. And anyway, as we come to a close, we still seek a solution. So in 1 minute, Woko, you have mentioned these crucial things, the fact that the clergy, is torn in two. I mean, the people we all probably looked up to in terms of getting solutions into this. We spoke of a scenario where the media has been compromised. We've talked of a scenario where, there's so much propaganda that is moving around. The fact that handouts are even being asked for by the, middle class, or so to speak. So how do we get ourselves from this hook of intolerance? Because yes, we are headed to a period where, politics will be charged. And if we do not control this well, then I'm afraid we do not get it right.
Well, thank you. Let me close on what Nawakili said about education. I've just read a text somewhere that from my home county, Karumad High School is on fire and some 5 students have been arrested.
All right.
I want to plead with the students. Our days, we used to strike. Not that we didn't have issues too.
As we proceed, where do you think is the
problem?
Is the problem? Yeah, that's what I want to mean. Yeah.
What is this poison?
Yes. So the poison, let me first tell them, when our days we used to strike, there are things that we never used to do. We never used to put cost on parents. So we never used to touch any building. So if the issue was a teacher, we deal with the teacher.
Yes.
If the issue was the head teacher, we deal with the head teacher. If the issue is cook, we deal with the cook, but not touching anything. And that's how I would, I want to commend the former Senator Mheshimiwa Karava, who was my head teacher. Mheshimiwa Karava gave you an open door policy. Come tell me what the problem. Let's talk as father son. I think that is lacking with the with the school administrations today. What another indicator is when a student sees a politician rioting and leading strikes, how do you expect him to learn? These are teachers who learns. On clergy, to conclude, let me say it's very clear, the church, the religious institution have been the voice of reason and a source of good morals. They have to go back to that. Voice of reason and source of good morals. The likes of Akina Joya, the likes of Akina Mulinge, the likes of Akina Getari, they were source of voice of reason. So if the church doesn't go there, they are leading us to a grave that one day the number of people going to church. Today, if you do a simple random survey, 10 people who used to go to church 10 years ago, ask them if they are going to church today, you'll find more than half are not going. So if they do not change, they'll end up preaching to themselves.
All right, and in 30 seconds, Mheshimiwa, we have institutions like the NCIC, government institutions that are channeled to address this animosity and, guarantee, the citizens that a peaceful coexistence. Do you suppose with what we witness today, the government has failed? Do we lack capacity to tame intolerance?
One is that I would lead very quickly say, we need to check on how we brought up our children, because you can only be able to straighten a tree when it is young, but when it grows older, it is and that bent is there. It is very hard for you to straighten that bent. And in this particular case, I would say, parents number one have left their job of making sure that they nurture and train their children on the way and how for them to be good men and women of tomorrow. My panelists have also talked about the clergy. The clergy has an area to operate on.
Yeah.
They are the people to give good morals to these young children. Mm-hmm. And once these good morals are not instilled at early stage, you cannot instill this when he's 20, 30 years.
All right.
It will be difficult. Then coach these children as he's coming up, give them those good morals as he's young, so that he can know exactly what is expected even when he grows up. But we have forgotten this, and we have raised our children in the care of teachers, and teachers are everything. That's where we are going wrong. We must know there is an area for the teachers, there is an area for the parents, and there is an area for the community to train their children to become good products of tomorrow.
Well, thank you. Areba, how do we get Kenyans to question early politicking of patronage, and how do we get ourselves to that political season without having to compromise our peace?
Okay, very briefly, I think Kenyans need to learn more on the art of that when you elect somebody into a leadership position, they have a higher responsibility of not giving handouts or calling you for a tribal meeting or giving you some handouts, but rather delivering on the reason why you voted for them. If you look at the core of leadership is that when I bring myself into to try and run for office, is that I'm giving you a reason why you should elect me. And during the subsistence of my term, then you need to question what I brought you, what I offered in terms of the manifesto. And at the end of it, if you find that I'm performing as you wished, then you can renew my term. If you find that I'm not performing as you planned, then you can drop me. Also in the midterm, we have midterm kind of checks and balances which can be able to be used on a leader. And that is very key thing that the people have not learned. We think that when we elect Mheshimiwa here, we elect him to give us 50 bobs or 100 bobs. In that when we stop him somewhere on Mombasa Road, all we want are 100 bobs or t-shirts. No. There's a higher calling to leadership than all these issues that are happening. Then I can't leave the set without talking about the young people. Because we all are passing through them. And we'll be out of that phase. But I feel that the current setup of leadership has not really taken a keen interest of young people. There is no reason why we take our children to schools and nurture them. Then at the end of the day, we don't have reason to empower them. He said something about the nurses and the askaris all being young people. But how many people do we have where it matters to drive policy and in leadership positions? An askari somewhere in Marsabit cannot be able to drive policy. So we need more and more young people on leadership positions and on a policy making level, because they are more energetic and more innovative. Mzee Nyachae, may God rest his soul in peace, did not know WhatsApp existed. But right now we're having more modern ways of communicating and driving change. So that is where we need more people, young people, to be precise on the leadership level and the policy driving level.
Areba Omoyo, Advocate of the High Court, thank you so much. Honorable James Gakuya, Member of Parliament in Embakasi North, thank you so much. And Governance Expert Irungu Goko, it was good having you. Thank you for the great insights as we look forward to have more and more of these conversations. Remember, it is incumbent upon you to maintain that peace. It starts with you before it gets to the level of the government. So why don't you embrace the same? We take a short break, we come back with a different conversation altogether, and we go all the way to where the values culminate from at home, domestic violence, after this.
Agriculture being the engine of economic growth in Kenya. Richer Fields aims to educate, entertain, and take you round the world of rich fields when it comes to matters agriculture and agribusiness.
It's 800 shillings per kg.
Where?
Almost 100% profit.
We take you to the world of organic living,
Some people say organic is boring. It's actually not boring.
strawberry farming, and so much more. Richer Fields coming soon on TV 47. On the grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Pain, discomfort, and sleepless nights. These are just but a few of the things we go through on a daily that deteriorate our health. Body Garage is here to remind you on how to love and care for your body's health.
Finding our balance. Don't worry, you'll fully come back again.
Self-care and love is the best gift you can give. Tune in every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. On Coffee with Movie, we bring you great testimonies from amazing personalities.
So wa kwanza alikaa ndani ilikuwa intense cause alikuwa yeye alikuwa atafuta place atawaka akifanya thesis zake.
Stories that will inspire and encourage you.
Hiyo kitu ilisha wasoni clap. Sheila told us this is what we've been looking for.
And some that will even make you laugh out loud.
Chapa kawa ya kutuliza temperature kabla ya hiyo story.
Na wewe hukuleta mandazi bro.
Umeona ingeandikwa coffee and mandazi.
Make sure you catch the episodes of Coffee with Movie every Sunday at 8 p.m. Love is friendship that has caught fire. It is the month of love.
When you're loved truly, every grain of your personality changes.
Ooh. A great time to add more fire to your love life.
Why not have a journey before the climax rather than always thinking about the climax?
With great insights from our panelists.
It ought to start during the day. Ikifika pale jioni, sasa flirting ndio inafika kilele. Yeah, that is when now you go for your beautiful dress.
And spice to your relationship. Only on the Garden of Eden. Every Wednesday from agriculture being the engine of economic growth in Kenya. Richer Fields aims to educate, entertain, and take you round the world of rich fields when it comes to matters agriculture and agribusiness.
It's 800 shillings per kg.
Where?
Almost 100% profit.
We take you to the world of organic living.
Some people say organic is boring. It's actually not boring.
Strawberry farming, and so much more. Richer Fields coming soon on TV 47. On the Grind, we bring you different entrepreneurs who give the story of their businesses with love and passion.
I'm a musician forever. This is something that is inborn.
It excites me each day. It's a field that has always excited me.
Because when you show love to your business, it will show love to you.
The most rewarding bit of being a photographer is seeing a bride able to see her images of her wedding and evoke emotion in her and just relive the moment once again.
Get to hear these stories and so much more every Monday.
Well, it comes along with some baggage of shame, but equally it is important that we come out as the world and speak about it. Why I'm saying it is not so new a topic is because it's not the first time again that we're talking about this. It's been constant for the longest of time. It gets, it's taking a new shape. It's getting another face, or I don't know whether this is something that has just been there. It's just that we never spoke about it. And we're talking about domestic violence. Why I'm saying it's taking a new shape is because in most cases you'd hear domestic violence and you think, it's actually a woman being battered. But such is not the case. You realize that even men are being battered back at home. Most of them suffer in silence. And so we want to come out and speak about this. We want to come out and remind you constantly that it is important you speak out. It is important that you know what, you do not die there. If worst has come to the worst, it is much better if you step out and say, well, let's go in peace, take your way, I'll take mine, as opposed to staying in there. And then now we hear stories of Linda is reporting about, one person who killed whoever, and, constantly neighbors would come out to say that such has always been the case. They used to batter each other a lot, but then again, they got to this point where they have killed each other. It should not get to that point. And even as these processes continue within the home setup, the effect of them is nothing that you'd want to be close or be associated with. What does it do to the children? What does it do to you as an individual? Is exactly what we'll be discussing alongside specialists. I call them specialists because they've been handling these matters of family for the longest time I know. They have, gone to school to understand this in their own respective capacities. They are pastors and they talk deeply about these matters and they speak to every other person, the congregants and out there. So it is important that we engage them and they give us views that would be of great importance to us to run away from domestic violence. Dr. Julius and Dr. Jane, good to have you this morning. I should have started by saying Dr. Jane first, ladies first. But all the same, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
After quite a while.
Yes.
The other time we're talking about raising the boy child.
Yes.
We're looking at the scenarios that we witnessed today, the murder cases, that are conducted by these young thugs. We were looking at the kind of unrest and intolerance that we witness in schools. And before we started the conversation, the gentleman that I had on said, domestic violence is actually a conversation that you should have because you find that everything that is happening outside, in the lives of these young thugs is culminating from the animosity that is at home.
True.
Why do you say it is true?
I agree. You see, I think a common saying that says charity begins at home.
Yes.
I also believe that violence also begins at home.
Okay.
You will rarely find somebody who is extremely violent, abusive, in school, even in organizations, because we have them, or even in marriages, if they have not, they themselves experience that kind of a form of violence.
Okay.
So if you look deeply backwards in the life of that person who is physically abusive, emotionally abusive, or any other way, you will find there was something that happened in their home that caused or triggered something, violence in them. Because domestic violence is not about even the person who is being violated.
Okay.
If you look at it, it begins with a person who has issues with himself or herself, and that's why they mete out the violence to the other person.
All right, that's an interesting view to look at it. We'll be looking deeper into that. But first, the numbers are up. This season of COVID-19.
True.
Just what ails the family setup? What is this thing that was not known that COVID has brought to the fore?
Yeah, according to World Health Organization, the number rose to about 2 million women and 800,000 men.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that about 2 million women were battered.
Yes.
It is called intimate violence, because this is by people you are intimate to. And 800,000 men, so you can see also the number of men they taught the best to batter them, and now they're battering back.
Right.
So, and that's not the case. What COVID did, it brought the man back home earlier than he used to go. And it kept him longer with the wife than before.
Is that not supposed to be a good thing?
It's supposed to, but in a relationship where the marriage was not healthy in the first place, it's like it brought in two things. Number one, you've got so much time with this person, you're able to see all their faults. You know, I tell women, if you want to stay for long with your, let's say, house manager, give her time while she's working. Come while everything is prepared. Don't be there throughout telling her, no, oshango hivi, kwanza iron, then no, let her organize herself. Because you'll feel like you want to take over. And a lot of that began to happen. And the men began to wonder, how come at this time this has not happened? You know, women, we have a way we organize ourselves. It started from very minor issues.
Hold it right there. And I'm sorry, I am bringing this example here. I think I've seen you for the longest of time, numerous occasions, and not just because of the set thing or you coming, to talk to the people or the viewer back at home. And I think it's only once that I have seen Dr. Jane alone. Only once. Now, I don't
for many years, I think we're talking of almost over 10 years. Yes. I think it's also a choice we made. It's a choice we made. And this is what we wish that the couples would go back to. Where they're friends. You get what I'm saying? Where they're friends. And so a lot of couples are not friends. Let's just go with that.
All right.
They're not friends. Now, walizoeana, you know, it's like, okay, there is, and let me talk a lot about women at this point. The man felt disrespected. And am I saying it says to batter a woman, it's right? No. You should never batter a woman. Neither should you batter a man. But most men complain because there's a point at which you were called to a police station, a certain police station. We used to go and sit and sort out issues on domestic violence during the COVID period.
And they were
the police told us, come and help us because we need counsel. And so we'd sit with them. And most men were saying, this woman does not respect me, does not recognize that I'm in the house, and I'm feeling demeaned, and I want to establish my authority. Wrong way to go. But that's the way they were taking. The other thing, we're dealing with most spouses, especially men, who had lost their job or had a salary cut. And as Dr. said, most of them would feel like I'm not the man I used to be. And perhaps they don't recognize me as a man because I'm not working. And you know, for us women, somehow we'll get something to do. And so they would feel like, you know, if it was me working then, I would have been getting my respect. There is no more communication, there is no honor. Suddenly violence breaks out of silent communication.
How do we handle that? Okay, silent communication. But then how do we handle these pressures of life? Because, then I don't understand how the pressures of life would equate to what it is that you've probably gone through in life, that you'd get to a point of battering a woman or vice versa. So if you met with the troubles of life, how do you handle them such that they would not come in handy to affect what it is that you have as a relationship with the people that you love at the home setup?
You see what happens, Linda? The challenges that come if you see people who are meting out violence on others. One, they have issues with themselves, and at most times it is about control. It's about having that other person either in their mind submitting because they think the person is not submitting, or they themselves they feel a level of inferiority, so they want to bring down the person to the level they are. So that is why you'll find somebody will beat a wife or will beat a husband because they want to put them in the level where they feel they themselves are. Because in their mentality, they think maybe the wife is there. So when this guy loses a job, he suddenly feels like I have moved from the top position to a lower position and my wife is higher. So the only way I can bring her to where I am is by abusing her physically or verbally abusing her or denying some things. And I think the most important thing is for the person who is abusing others to realize they have issues with their complexity. They have inferiority complex, they have low self-esteem that has not come because of the woman or the wife that is there. It is because of they themselves, the way they have handled life. And so they need to look for a solution on how to heal from that level of inferiority complex. Now, the people who are being abused also need to understand that they're dealing with somebody who is mentally disturbed.
Okay.
Now, you find somebody provoking this man who is already angry because he has lost a job, who is already feeling that he's low there, then you're telling him, "We nigonge." Now, you're actually helping him to do what he actually wants to do. So it takes one person to realize that if this person is mentally unstable, then I will deal with this person more careful.
Okay.
You are dealing like you're dealing with a wild animal. You can't deal with a wild animal by being wild yourself. Probably you have to be calm in a way where they sense that you're in control.
But to what level should it be? And I'm glad that this is coming, after we are discussing the fact that, there are pressures of life that would come on board. But I've met women who have been under that pressure of knowing that, he's a hot-tempered man. So throughout your life, you are living careful and cautious and, keen not to annoy this person. And sometimes it can really be, hectic and tiresome, honestly. Why does it have to get to that point?
Yeah. Let me say this, Linda. For most of those, because I've interacted with them, they faced it while they were dating.
Okay.
Most of them were either slapped, kicked, punched, while they were dating with the same person. And they thought it's okay because it's a learned behavior, because they saw their dad beating their mom.
Okay.
And the mom saying it's okay because I love him or he loves me. And we as children while growing, we learn by copying what we say. So most people who grow up in violent homes, especially ladies, accept that that's the only way it can be. And some places they believe it's a show of love.
Okay.
If he didn't beat me at all and I'm not behaving well, then he didn't love me. But you see what? That's a learned thought. The school of thought is warped. You learn that from growing up, and they learned it from their grandparents, so it's passed down the line. And that's why I tell somebody, it has to stop somewhere.
Okay.
It just has to break.
But wait a minute, if it is character and health, and let's talk about that. The fact that yes, there's someone who's probably experienced it, on the early stages. There's someone who's never experienced it, but 2, 3, 4, 5 down the line, a slap comes your way. And there's one who probably has been experienced it all the entire time, and then boom, all of a sudden, violence is no more. What just happens within this, and what is with these characters? If we're talking about a scenario about, this is an individual and that is just them. If this is a violent person, they're just violent all through. They can slap you once, after 5 years, and probably you would say, well, they're not violent.
No, it should not be allowed. Okay. Not even, and that's why I tell women, the mindset that a lot of our Africans, let me use bracket Kenyan women have had, is that if I leave this man, who will take care of me? I don't have a place to go to. And most of them then would cite the fact that perhaps they don't have a job, they're not educated, who will educate my children? They look at violence, and because of the financial constraint, they carry the brand for violence.
Is it justified to say that now these women who have been empowered, have their money and everything now, they are becoming something else, knowing very well that they can actually take care of them and of themselves? And true to it, most of them who divorce or step out are those ones who are capable of taking care of them.
True. You see what happens, Part of domestic violence, what causes it, you may find the level of education. Somebody will tolerate an abusive spouse simply because they don't have enough education. So they feel like if I step out, then I will not get the opportunities that I'm getting from this person. So they tend to stay in simply because there are benefits that are coming in financial. Otherwise, if they stepped out, they would not be able to get. So, and that's why you find when probably this woman becomes empowered financially, the first thing they think it is stepping out. But we need to look at, one thing, we need to look at the core, the root cause of everything, because as a doctor said, most of the times we tolerate it. You find somebody has slapped you the first time, and you never did anything. In fact, they realize by the time they slapped you, you began to behave well. Now you are no longer shouting the way you used to shout. So they realize, oh, this is a way. If she ever shouts at me, then I will slap this person. Or on the other hand, if you are a lady and probably you are the one who is battering your husband because he doesn't have a job, and so this guy realizes, the woman realizes that if I do this to this man, he stops being violent or he stops saying the things he says. So you find it becomes a way of doing things. You learn that this is the way to do it again and again. So unless we, from the beginning, say no, and you also don't just say no, but say if you do this, then I will report this either to an authority, or I will talk to your parents, because there are people who are scared of hearing that their mothers will be told or their fathers will be told. And if it ever happens and you take that step and say, now that you have done it, then I will report this, the person will take you seriously.
Have you ever heard some people say that, there are women who attract violent men and the other way around? There are men who attract, like the first relationship, there's a slap. The second one, there's a slap. The third one, there's a slap. Until you feel like, if the fourth one is going to have a slap, then I'll have to settle, because now people will start thinking that I am the problem. Yes, it is there.
No, it is
slappable people.
They are slappable people.
Yes.
You know what happens? We usually say, when somebody has gone through emotional and physical abuse, they begin to lose value for themselves.
Okay. True.
As low self-esteem enters into their heart, and therefore they look like I am not valuable. So anyone who will accept me, even if they slap me less than the one who slapped me before, then they are better for me.
Yes.
And that is what happens. And that's why we say it is so important to have, if you have gone through violence, to look for a counselor who can sit down with you, and they may be able to identify the things that are going through you. Because the other people who probably they have 1 or 2, 3 children, and they've been told you'll never be married because you have 3 kids. And so if they find a man who is slapping them very well and later providing also very well, they are like, I'll never be married, so I would settle with this. So that is one thing that causes people to remain in violent relationship, because of low self-worth.
Daktari has brought us to a point where we should have started from, talking of the causes. He speaks of education. We speak of poverty levels, esteem, and all that. What are some of these things that would get you to that point? Low self-esteem, out of the experiences that you've had, that you need to stay alert and woke and understand that if this is the direction I will take, then I'm afraid I'll land myself in, bad hands.
Yeah, number one, you need to define your relationship. And I tell people, when they come for counseling, it's important to define, because most of these people are in a relationship that we define as martyr relationship. Okay. In a martyr relationship, you're ready to die to be married. So you die to yourself, you die to your values, you die to your everything, because the community believes at your age you should be married, and the influence of the people around you is that you should be married. Number two, because the person who is violent, however, also has a lot of plus in the society. Okay. And so the parents, your parents, keep pushing you because that family is wealthy, or that man is well learned, or he drives a car, and in the village, how many are doing so? So they kind of like push you towards it, and you find yourself a victim of fate. And also, when we believe that whatever comes to us, quote unquote, is God's will.
Yeah, all right. That's another one.
Yeah, because that's a religious belief that I don't agree with.
And they tell you God hates divorce, and they quote the Bible.
I agree, and God hates divorce, and I agree with them on that. But not everything that happens in that marriage is God's will. And some people will sit there and say, he began to get violent. And so that caliber of people feel like I deserve it, because their self-esteem has been beaten down. So they constantly feel like, if I did this, it would not have been violent. Actually, the other way also, the flip side for the men. They say, perhaps if I work harder and I buy my wife perhaps a Christmas dress or something, she will not batter me, because there are men who are really getting battered. And you're having women who are very strong.
Why do I want to support that?
Wickedness. Yeah, and so what is happening? They go to the gym. Yeah, you know, some of those women saw their mothers being beaten.
Yeah,
and now they went on the flip side to the extreme, where anything small for them is a protection. It's a wall. You try to talk to me loudly, she slaps back because she's afraid of seeing what the mothers went through. Yeah. All that is wrong. I think it is an emotional sickness, emotional instability. So one other reason to put that in a nutshell is emotional instability. Yeah, people who are emotionally not well. We're having people who are sick, emotional ICU, and end up dating somebody who is also in emotional ICU. Okay. By the time they realize they are both unwell, they've been wounded along the path of life, and they never got time to heal, they begin to bleed on each other. And when they begin to bleed on each other, that's why you find cases of violence, murder, rape, and all that happen.
I am just curious, before we come to you, Dr. At what point do you say enough is enough? When it happens once or twice or thrice? Remember, you're also trying to keep this marriage.
I agree, but I believe, Linda, keeping the marriage is not at the expense of my body. Because if my parents stopped beating me while I was in lower primary and would sit and talk, who tells you, you should come and teach me how to talk by the cane? You get what I'm saying? Right. Yeah, because if I keep telling men, if you knew what one slap does to the inside of a woman, not the outside, the outside may have not even a scar, but to the inside, and to that marriage and to that relationship, they constantly see you as an animal.
Do things ever change?
It will
happens once
or twice. Let me go to the first question. When should it be too much? When you see a person doing it and the person wants to do it again, flee for your life. There are many people who are married today who, if they'd been told before, or are invalids, who, if they stopped at the first one, would be alive today. So I say, after the first one, the second one, begin to look at ways, as Dr. said, look for intervention. Don't call it quits. Look for intervention. Look for a counselor. Look, perhaps, you know, at times if you talk to the parents, you're giving them more stress. So look for an external person, a religious person, a counselor, or somebody who can step in externally on the second one and see if something will be sorted out. But if beyond that, if it persists, you know, adverts used to say, maumivu ya kizidi muone daktari. So hiyo maumivu yake ikizidi, at times the daktari is a bit of separation.
Yes.
For the sake of your life.
Okay, well, let's go back a bit lower. Let's speak to the parents, speak to the dads out there. How is it like witnessing family violence for a child?
Wow. In fact, I would have no words to express it, but I think it is one of the worst things, because for children, they look at a family as a place of safety. So when they see a man beating his wife, or a woman, on the other hand, maybe beating the husband, or even verbally abusing each other, now their sense of security disappears through the window. And the next thing, they have questions, where do I go? And that's why you find when there is physical violence in home, the natural tendency for most children is to run away. They usually either will go to a bedroom and maybe get into the bed and go to the place at a corner, because they are like, this is not a safe place to be. The next thing, either they will get out and maybe stay for very long. And that's why you have in some families, children, they saw violence. Later there was peace. But because when they were young, they used to run away, even up to today, they still don't come back. True. I usually say this to any man, to any woman. It is a sad thing for you to raise your hand, or even physically or verbally begin a battle when your children are there, because you are destroying their inside, you are destroying their self-confidence, and they look at you and they are afraid of you because they don't know whether you can offer them the same security. Because children look at parents as a source of security. So one must take all caution not to be violent in front of the children. Number two, you introduce violence to them. Because a boy will look and says, I wish I can fight my dad. So a time comes, and probably when they are older, you may say something, and that's why you see some of these cases you are seeing, a man has been killed by a son. It didn't just begin. It's not that it began the particular day. Probably this man used to be so violent, and this boy was waiting for one time, and he didn't know that he would end up killing the father. So violence is injected to that child, and it may never get out, and it may explode on somebody else somewhere or on the same whatever. On the number 3 thing that happened, there is what we call dishonor. Now, as a pastor, I would say when dishonor enters a child, you have also released a curse on that child.
Okay.
Because when the word of God says that honor your father and mother that it may be well with you, that means there are things that will not go well with you in life.
Child, okay.
There will be a short, because this child learns one thing: I cannot respect men, I cannot respect women. So that child goes to school, unasikia amejibu mwalimu vibaya, kwa sababu kwake you are just another person. There is no honor. So when you do that, you're doing so much damage to your child, and you must avoid it at all costs.
You speak of safe space, and the home has for the longest of time been seen as the safe space for men who say, you're always told as a woman, allowing that time to go to come and shed off the troubles of the day and relax. And women too have looked at men as their security, the home as a safe space. But a report again came out the other day speaking of the fact that the homes are no longer safe spaces for the girl child, for the women. What does it speak of this society, and just how do we get ourselves from that scenario? It is no longer a safe space for the child again, because when they start developing such courtesy of what it is that they have witnessed, then we clearly are telling them that school is better. And in most cases, they have looked at school as a better deal. It's just that their rules are sometimes, limit them.
Yeah, I say this. The number one source of comfort in every home, and this one comes back to the woman. The number one source of comfort in every home is a woman.
Okay.
It is a woman. But what is happening? Because it doesn't matter, you may find a home where Mzee is a drunkard, but mom is around, she's warm, she's happy. Children are always around that house. And she creates memories. Because children will always come back home to memories. They don't come to nothing. They come back to memories. You know those moments, perhaps you're making mandazi, the moments you're washing clothes together, and I go back to this, and these one women, we cannot run away from it. Every woman has been skilled by God to build her own home. It doesn't matter how bad it is, somehow, somewhere, there is something a wise woman would have done. And I think we need now to teach women about wisdom for living. There is something a wise woman would have done, because the good book also tells me that a wise woman builds her own home with her own hands. That means there is a skill to tame a man. There is a skill to tame an environment, because women are climate controllers. And therefore, I keep saying this. If it gets to a point that it is not safe for you as a woman, either you're in the wrong place, completely wrong, you missed it from the basics, or there is something you're not doing according to the skills in you.
Right.
And one of the things women are doing these days, which is very wrong, is revenge. I keep telling women, don't revenge on a man. Be skillful in molding this person, because they are moldable. Women have got an ability to mold even their crazy sons, because it's a gift, even in you, Linda.
Okay.
You know somehow how, this one, nikimwongelesha hivi, when I serve this food like this, when I do this, every creature, including animals, they are gravitated towards love. They gravitate towards honor. They gravitate towards respect. So when you know what it means to give your husband or your children comfort, because every man marries for comfort zone. You create your own environment. And so we cannot keep running away as women, because men can never make a home. By the way, they cannot. They just build houses. They can never make a home.
Right.
So I think we also now need to sit back, ask ourselves, is a company I'm keeping helping me to make a home? Because some of them sit around, hang around with people who tell them, "Mzaki hivi, na mimi hivi." And that is not the truth. They go home, they are very meek. Create time for your children. Cut off time with your phone. Because at times you're so on phone. I have observed it of late. You find a lady has gone out with her children for lunch, but she's on social media. The children are trying to grab her attention. She is there but not present. She's laughing with invisible people. And I think as women, you've got to be purposeful parents, purposeful homemakers. Where you get to the house and you create the home environment, create the climate, have your time for your friends and everything, but when you go home, know it's your divine mandate, your divine responsibility, and when you do it well, you get the reward.
All right, let's talk about the first slap and the damage that it could have.
Yes.
And how then one can get themselves back to a point where they realize that I'm a woman after all. And so if I have decided to stay after that one slap, then it's still incumbent upon me to fix this home. Because sometimes we're emotional beings and we're carried with these emotions. And every other time it comes back into your head that actually you slapped me. And you keep reminding this person, no, you only slapped by the way. And so at that point, everything goes haywire. Because you cannot fix what it is that Dr. Jen speaks about. So how do you get yourself into that point in the event that you decide it's okay? He did it once and he said sorry and he seems like he's indeed apologetic, and so as the woman I have to go back to that point where I will forgive them in totality and I will focus on building this home.
I think as Dr. Jenna said, it is possible to build relationships even from point of brokenness. But I will say this, and this I'll direct to the ladies. Sometimes they forget that your words as a woman are sometimes worse than slaps. For a man, you say something, you call him useless, you compare him and you say, Baba Nani does this, that will hit him harder than any slap that may be given on the outside. In fact, he would rather prefer to be hit on the face than to hear those words. And also, I'll still come, and also the aspect of challenging. You know, a man is created with an instinct to protect, an instinct to fight. So when you challenge this man and you begin to say, hit me, you are provoking something that you may not be able to deal with after that. And most men regret after they slap their wives or whatever, they do regret. And I do not condone at all any physical violence by men. But now for the woman, one, learn so seriously to control what you say with your mouth. Because that will determine how a situation will change. It is good to know that a soft word can calm any situation. Be a woman that changes and agrees that I will become in every situation. Number two, after he has done that, then you need to sit with him down and tell him, we are building this relationship, but this is not ever again acceptable. Because somebody will know when you have said it's a no-no. You know, there are people who say no. You know, it's like relationships when maybe you are dating, you're trying to date, and you're telling that guy, hey, this moment. And you can say she's saying no, but she's saying yes. Now, there are ladies who will be like, you've slapped me, but never slap me again. But deep inside, you're still not serious about what you're saying. I think women need to put it out to the men that are probably physically violent, that this is not acceptable. I will not tolerate this. And it can either cause us to separate or cause me to take an action where I'll go to the police because men don't like shame. So, and be serious about that. And when you do that as a woman and you say this thing is not acceptable and I will take 1, 2, 3 steps, if this ever happens again, then he will listen and you will find it may not ever happen again. And
are there places to report in the first place? And I mean, is help at our disposal? Like, honestly speaking, you go to the policeman, you tell them that, and they start laughing at you. Well, true. And you know, you just ask yourself, is there a place you can go to report this, and to who actually?
That's a question. Now, number one, let me fight for the man. When it comes to gender violence and the man has been battered, you can imagine a whole big man coming to cry to the police, to that young girl who is writing at the OB. Issue ni nini nimechapwa na bibi. And so I believe one thing we need to have is compassionate, I think a department of compassion. I think the police also need a department that is trained, well equipped to deal with domestic matters.
True.
That is compassionate about issues happening. Because a lot of people who are injured in families had reported.
True.
They had talked to somebody, either to the chief, Nyumba Kumi initiative, wherever, but nobody took action. Because when it is a woman, people think, likosea, acha kumkosea. Simple. Perhaps the man is on drugs. I did nothing wrong. He just came with his influence. So nilimkoseaje. So I feel a lot of these things, these issues are not well treated. And we need, if the government would help, is to give, if it's a police department, it can work alongside, like we did during the COVID, with professional counselors who can volunteer, so that when there are such cases, they can handle them for them before they tell the man, wewe ni mtoto unachapwa na bibi. And then bibi mwenye anatokea kanatoshana hivi. Na mzee anatoshana hivi, but he's gentle at heart. He may be strong, but he's gentle at heart. So I believe that shame, most people don't want it. Again, you may go to report to perhaps your chief, then it is news bulletin all over the village, all over your estate. So and so uchapwa, hata mkisikia, hata ukimwona na heels. So I believe we need a department with compassion and with understanding on the matters family.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's speak gender in this case. Women have who probably have experienced domestic violence or abuse, at a significantly higher risk, or are at a significantly higher risk of one girl experiencing range of mental conditions, post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and we've seen these cases outright. Some of them have gotten to a point where they have thought of suicide and all these things. How can they handle such and live a normal life? And is there a difference in the case of men after having experienced violence, domestic violence?
One thing that happens when it comes to domestic violence is any person who is going through domestic violence need to look for help. And you need to look for help in the right places. Identify people who can understand you. If you're a woman, look for another woman who will be able to listen to you, not even probably help you on anything, but just listen to you, that you can be able to talk to them. If you're a man, you need to identify another man. I have had men who we have sat together, and they will come and tell you, Pastor, this is what is happening. And because they have found confidence in you, they are able to find healing. But unfortunately, when it comes to the men's world, you go and you tell another man that you are being beaten. Of course, just like you are saying, most of them probably will laugh, or they will even tell you where you are just a coward, and so they don't help. So I would say, number one, identify people that you can talk to, because that is the beginning part. Now, the second thing, you also need to find, there's a lot of help in books. One thing I've discovered is that we don't read a lot. And there is a book that you can read and you find a lot of solutions therein. So I would also encourage people to read a lot, because that will really help. Now, when it comes to the other side of the women, I think they have been the ones who have gone through violence more than anybody else. It is important to realize and to come to a place where if you are being abused because you are more educated, there are men who will beat their wives because they are earning better and they are doing well. You need to reach a place where you can be able to say, I can separate, because that is even an option that is even given biblically, that you can separate from your husband, then find a solution. And don't go back to this person unless you have gone through a counseling process. Because one guy will come, I'll never beat you again. And so you find a lady picking her bags and she goes back to the same home, but they never solved the foundational issues. So I always say, if before going back to that home where there was violence, look for a professional counselor.
What is the worst that can happen if you do not solve these issues, underlying issues? And sometimes you go there, and actually, I've had friends of mine speak of a scenario where he's living his life, I'm living mine, and that's it. He is not questioning me on anything, I'm not questioning them on anything, and that's it. Just how healthy or unhealthy is that?
It is not healthy.
It is not. There's a point at which you feel like, to be very, very honest, This man has been violent, and he's violent again. There's a point at which you say it's not a must to remain married to the same man. As much as, yes, we are pastors, we also have to take care of you to be alive forever until the time comes when the Maker will take you. And you're also concerned about your emotional well-being. We are, I mean, the society is concerned that you met this man when you are whole. You need to live whole and to improve. But if today he hits you, tomorrow he punches you, you have had counseling, you have looked for intervention, and then the following day he threatens you, and most of them keep saying this, and I've had that a lot. Siku moja nitakuua. I've had that a lot. Siku moja mimi nitakuua. And when a man tells you that, kindly, can you just pack and go?
Because this would...
Because when a man is saying that, it's already premeditated. He's meditating on something, it's a slip of the tongue, from the subconscious. It's something that's been mingled with his brain. Siku moja nitakuua. Why? Because perhaps he wants to get rid of you and get somebody else.
Okay, well, that's an interesting one. Which is worse as we get to a close? Emotional abuse, physical abuse. Which one has, you know, I don't want to call them ramifications, but has more effects, negative effects for that matter?
You know, what I would say, emotional abuse, the sad part about it, you may not even know that it is happening.
Okay.
You know, you'll find men who are denying food in their homes. And so that is still emotional. Maybe the wife will come, will give the children all the food, and he will not be served. So that person is left emotionally battered, but physically when he steps out there, you'll not see anything. You may find, especially like this time of Corona when men are not working, you find he is not able financially, so the woman who has finances refuses to assist him in anything. Even if it is bus fare, probably in the bus, the lady is the one who is paying and she's making sure she's saying, nalipia ule mzee yuko pale nyuma. So the person has got nothing to say, but you know, the person is emotionally wounded, but he can do nothing. He doesn't have the money. So it goes deeper because it may not be seen physically. And also there are women who have been called names. They have been denied food. They have been told you cannot see so and so. That is also emotional. They are never beaten, but they are told you cannot go to this chama. If I see you talking to this woman, if I see you standing with this man outside, you will see me. They are never beaten, but they forever live in isolation because of the words they hear from their men. I say emotional abuse is worse more than the physical abuse.
Oh, okay. And so there's a way one can get out of that. I wish we'd have this conversation some more, but time is not on our side. In 30 seconds, how do you realize that this is actually emotional abuse, and do you step out?
When you realize you're constantly not happy, look for joy within you.
Okay.
Look for what makes you happy. Create your own environment. Be whole. Because so many times you depend on our own partners, on the other partner to make you whole. No, be whole yourself. People are attracted to whole people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All right, that's more like it. I think there's no better way of winding it up as, opposed to actually picking that particular point that has been raised by Dr. Jane. And I think I agree to that. You know, for a moment I just got myself thinking, actually, you know, those moments when you feel like you're not whole, nobody is attracted to you, and those moments when you get to, to your senses and you say, well, this is Linda and this is it, good things come your way.
Yeah,
good things do come your way. So it's incumbent upon you. Speak out, step out if it is not working right. You are your sole security caregiver.
Yeah.
And so it is incumbent upon you to ensure that you guarantee yourself that. That's why